dope, 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 dope. Nobody jumps like you, kangaroo court. Nobody does things like you, kangaroo. You are a kangaroo court, yeah, you. What's up, everybody? Here is the closing arguments for my trespass appeal hearing. This is the last video before the verdict. I hope you enjoyed it. In this video, they claim that I was testifying throughout the whole trial so that the judge or magistrate or hearing officer or whatever the hell he is gets to cross-examine me, and so does the county attorney. And I believe it backfired on both of them, honestly. So here's the video. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Much love. Have a good day. Enjoy the video. See you. Bye.
Been testifying all day and submitted a written statement that constitutes testimony.
And I have questions, and I think as a hearing officer in these proceedings, I have the ability to ask questions of the witnesses. So I have questions of you.
Am I a witness?
You are.
I thought I was the appellant.
You're both.
I'm both the appellant and a witness.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I plead the fifth?
If you believe it's appropriate, you
Okay, go ahead.
can start.
Who are you acting for counsel for? I don't get it.
I'm not. I'm just allowed in these proceedings. They're not as evidentiary strict as a court proceeding, and I'm allowed to ask questions.
Okay, go ahead.
Questions.
Go ahead.
I haven't got there yet. I mean, if you want me to go through, I wrote.
I just want to get my closing arguments to be done.
Okay. You can start your closing argument, but I may have questions.
Sure. Again, Article 1, Section 24A and B. I'm allowed to make records requests, and I'm allowed to inspect and or copy, regardless of form or fashion. Part B, anytime I'm meeting with a public official, I'm allowed to make an objective record of that encounter. Jeff came up here and lied over and over and over and over again. Now, if I was able to record and make an objective record, I could prove to you that he perjured himself over and over and over again. But they won't allow an objective record inside a public lobby of a government building because the way they have it set up, everything's within earshot. You can write down everything. Simply using their perception and brash, bold, lying security guards with guns on them is not objective evidence. The video is objective evidence. Their policy is ridiculous. Their policy causes people to be mad and then they blame it on me. That's the rapist mentality. I had to do this to you. Look what you did. So, again, the Constitution allows me to record in public. Smith v. Cumming allows me to record officials in the course of their public duties in public. Brandsburg v. Hayes, anywhere the public's allowed to be, so is the press. Having to ask for permission to exercise your constitutional rights means they can deny you your constitutional rights at their own perception and feelings. They obviously have a hard-on for us, as you can tell. They don't like us recording. They definitely don't like something like this in their office because they claim that they have to protect information. And there's no case ever in the history of Florida where someone went into an office, a tax collector's office, recorded something from the motor vehicle database, and knowingly published it for malicious intent. It's never happened. They're blowing this so out of proportion, it's ridiculous. I literally went in there with your court order. Everybody ignored the court order. The cops, the security guard, Zamora. I'm assuming she could care less.
The order doesn't allow you to record it.
I wasn't recording.
I understand.
Okay, it allows me to go in there and do legitimate business,
Right.
which is exactly what I was doing. Peaceful, calm, legitimate business until this guy came and browbeat me to death and threatened me multiple times, Mr. Gentry, to leave the building. And then finally, this is the whole time they're holding my property in the back office. And finally, when they gave it back to me, yeah, I used my free speech because there was nothing else left. I was at my wit's end. I could only be professional for so long. They were They were on top of me at no matter how many times I told him to leave me alone, he refused to leave me alone and have a manager or somebody else in the building handle my public records request.
Yeah, I don't doubt that.
Okay.
I don't doubt you. Based on his demeanor today and testimony, I don't doubt you at all.
And I like I said, I've been a
Here's my
police
question
account.
for you.
Go ahead.
What public record were you there to request?
I was going to request names and salaries of everybody that works there.
Did you actually ask somebody for that?
I did. I was never given a chance. I'm telling you, this guy wouldn't let me get a word in.
You didn't ask the...
I asked the clerk, and she says, "What is that?" And I said, "It's chapter
What did
1."
you ask her specifically?
What do you mean?
What did you ask her?
I said, "I'd like to make a public records request."
You didn't tell her what?
No, because she responded with, "What's that?"
Okay.
And I said, "It's chapter 1."
Your testimony earlier was that
She was handling it.
they asked you what you were requesting.
And I said, she was handling it.
She knows. What's
Yeah.
your testimony?
Yeah, she knows why I'm here. There's no reason for them to be there. It was peaceful until they got in my face and tried to browbeat me and force me out under duress. And he said I'm not even allowed to be there in general. And that it's private property. And good for you that you have a court order. They're ignoring your order. The police and everybody ignored your order. What good is it if I get a court order and I try to, here it is, here's the highlighted portion, 4 cops, every employee says, "Oh, we don't care about the magistrate orders." And Mr. Gentry said, "Oh, good for you that you have a court order."
Let me ask you another question.
Go ahead.
Let me remind you, you're under oath.
Yes.
Were you recording in the lobby?
No. No.
Have you ever used that camera and it flashed red and it wasn't recording?
That I don't know.
Is that the camera you had there? that
Yes.
day? Can I see it?
Sure.
That's the same one that you had on you that
Yeah.
day?
Is it recording now?
It is.
You mind if I take this off?
I wish I was recording. I really wish I was recording. And all the more reason their policy is trash because...
Can you make it?
You're live.
Can you make it flash a light so I can see what
I
they're talking
can't
about?
do that right now. You have to hook it up to a PC to change the settings. As far as I know. I can't do it right here, right now, though.
Do you have the make and model of this?
Only the model, whatever's on top of there.
Oh, I didn't see it on top.
I rarely use it. It's supposed to be backup. I usually use my cell phone, but I'm not allowed to use it in there. And I wanted to look up stuff while I was in there on my phone. Thank you.
So did you tell anybody that day of what records you were looking for?
I never was given an opportunity. I was being accosted and berated and made fun of and being sarcastic and threatened over and over by Jeff Gentry, regardless of how many times I told him to leave me alone and let a supervisor handle it. He refused. You get me, that's what you get. And don't call me honey. He thought I called him honey. I'm going to publish every video I took from that day on my channel. And there's not going to be anything from the lobby because I didn't capture anything in the lobby because I was following your court order.
You have further testimony or argument? No, I interrupted you.
I mean, that's the gist of it, man. They're going by their perception. Again, anyone can walk in there with a hidden camera. The policy's trash. They're literally violating people's rights.
I mean, I hear your argument with that, but I don't
And
think
as far-
it's hard to do. I don't think you're characterizing it necessarily fair. If you're looking at it objective, and they say, I look and I don't perceive that you're recording, then I'm not going to say anything. I think that's the right approach. But if it looks like you're recording or you're actively doing something, I think then they go ask and investigate. How else would you want them to handle it?
The way they would handle it is to create privacy without violating people's constitutional rights. You either bring someone back in a room, you know, like they do. There's thousands of DMVs across the country. Not all of them are set up to where people are sitting right here and the transactions are taking place right here within earshot and in plain view.
So
There's more than one way to skin a cat.
is with the policy in general, right?
Well, the policy is unlawful. And they testified last time that they made it out of thin air.
Do you understand, though, that this isn't the form to challenge the
That's
law?
fine, sir, and that's why I abided by their policy, and I brought them your court order that they wiped their ass with. The cops, 4 cops, including a lieutenant, a corporal supervisor, and a sheriff's deputy, everyone at the tax collector's office ignored your court order. I followed your court order, I followed their policy, and I'm still here in court defending myself against it. Anyone else hungry?
I don't have any further questions, so if you,
I didn't hear that, sir.
I don't have any further questions.
All right.
If you have more to say, if the county has more to say.
I mean, I'm done. I appreciate the time.
I think he certainly made himself a witness. I'd like an opportunity to ask some questions.
I think that's fair.
I'm not a witness.
I think he testified throughout the entire day,
Okay?
so I think he.
And I could plead the 5th, right?
You can.
Okay, go ahead.
So it is your testimony that you were not recording on that?
I plead the 5th.
I mean, can't be evasive.
Yeah.
Asked and answered.
So, okay, are you gonna, I guess my question is,
I'm not required to answer his questions.
you are, unless you believe there's some kind of constitutional right not to.
The Fifth Amendment.
You're gonna incriminate yourself?
Do I have a right to remain silent or no?
You have the right not to testify against yourself. You're not under arrest.
Do I have the right to remain silent in this court?
No,
I don't.
you're a witness.
Not when he's made himself a witness.
Go ahead.
You maintain
This
this.
isn't a criminal investigation. This isn't Miranda.
You're saying it's quasi-judicial, right?
What I'm saying is it's not Miranda. You have the right not to incriminate yourself.
I'm not pleading the 5th under Miranda. I'm pleading the 5th under the 5th Amendment. Those are two separate things.
But that applies to the Fifth Amendment, is you have the right not to testify against yourself. So unless,
Can what he say, asking me be used against me?
if he's asking you a question that your answer would incriminate you, then you can plead the Fifth. But you've already answered that same question.
Then why is he asking me again?
That's a different objection.
All right. Objection, asked and answered.
I mean, besides testifying all day, he submitted a written statement that's his entire narrative of the event. So he's unequivocally made himself a witness.
So everything's been answered then.
So therefore,
No, he's allowed to cross-examine you. That's part of this.
Go ahead.
the right to not be a witness against yourself applies if you choose not to be a witness. But once you do, you're subject to cross-examination.
I never chose to be a witness.
You submitted a whole packet of information in the testimony.
Hmm?
This
Well,
is
narrative.
written testimony.
Okay.
So that means you're a witness. He has the right to cross-examine.
I'm a witness to what, sir?
To the events that day. To your trespass warning.
Okay.
So he has the right to ask you questions.
Go ahead and ask.
It's like the Constitution only matters for the free press part, because part of the Constitution is he has the right to cross-examine.
And part of the Constitution is I have the right to remain silent.
That's not the Constitution. That's in Miranda. That came from case law.
Sir, with all due respect, the 5th Amendment is the right to remain silent and not answer questions. Miranda's something separate. Miranda went to, Miranda was created because a guy named Miranda was forced to answer questions, not realizing he had the Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. So they passed Miranda.
Yeah.
Okay.
They didn't pass it, it was a case.
Right, okay. It's a case law.
Miranda's criminal investigations. This is not a criminal investigation.
Even more reason I shouldn't have to answer questions.
No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless they've been indicted by a grand jury. That's the first part of the Fifth Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
No one shall be compelled in a criminal case to be a witness against himself.
Mhm.
This isn't a criminal case.
So is he asking me to be a witness against myself?
Not in a criminal case, he's not.
Okay. I don't feel I'm compelled to answer his questions, but go ahead.
But you're gonna have to.
Go ahead.
Or also, you have to understand that I have to take in everybody's testimony.
I'm said go ahead about 4 times now. Go ahead. Whenever you're ready.
All right. Mr. Felix, is it Felix or Felix?
You can pick.
Okay. Mr. Felix.
Okay. How do you pronounce your name?
I pronounce it Felix.
Felix?
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Felix, it's your testimony that you were not recording on the second, correct?
I was not recording.
Is it fair to say that you are kind of known for video recording?
That's not fair.
I mean, you do go around, you go to public buildings, you make video recordings, do you not?
I have. That's not what I do all the time. No, it's not a common thing I do. No. I have 3,000 videos. The very few are of that nature.
Well, you were trespassed from the Land O'Lakes tax collector for video recording, right?
Yeah.
You do have a YouTube channel where you post your videos, right?
Correct.
I mean, you're video recording this proceeding. You have a body camera in my face right now, right?
It's not in your face, sir. It's nowhere near your face.
You're video recording this proceeding, right? And you have that right, but you're video recording this
I
proceeding.
have that right, yes.
Of course. Okay.
Except not in the tax collector's office. For some reason, they're sovereign from the law.
Remember.
Go ahead.
Remember, answer the question that's
I did answer.
Okay. So going back to this, the February 2nd incident, you did have a body camera strapped to your chest, right?
Clipped. I had a body camera clipped to my shirt.
Clipped to your shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you did even acknowledge that the red light was blinking.
I did not acknowledge that.
Didn't you tell Mr. Gentry, well, that doesn't mean anything?
It doesn't mean anything, and I never acknowledged that it was blinking. That's all their testimony. I never said that.
You testified to that earlier.
What?
You testified that you told him that doesn't mean anything.
Right. It doesn't mean anything.
That means you acknowledge that he brought it up.
He brought it up. I didn't acknowledge that it was blinking. That's their testimony, not mine.
So,
I don't know what they saw.
so say they did see a red light blinking.
Speculation.
Okay. You've not been able to replicate the red light blinking.
Never tried.
Okay, you've never tried to replicate the red
Nope.
light blinking when it's not recording.
No.
And in fact, you just told Mr. Maggard you actually have to hook it up to the PC to change the settings.
I told him I believe that's the way it's done. Like, I don't know everything this camera does.
So, I mean, let me ask you, knowing of the prior instance of video recording, knowing that you do have a YouTube channel where you post video recordings,
Mm-hmm.
can you understand why when you walk in there wearing a body camera on your chest, why they might think you're video recording?
Why I think they're biased against me? Yes.
So you can understand why they might think that you're video
They
recording.
can think whatever they want. I think
That's
they're all
not-
pedophiles.
That's not the question.
I think they're pedophiles.
That's not the question.
Okay.
The question is, can you understand
No.
why they might think?
No.
You cannot.
Not
you
without
can't
objective
comprehend
proof, no.
that. Okay. That's fair.
They have to make that up in their own mind.
Okay. All right, you're
So, let me ask you.
Who's questioning me now? Both of you? This has gone on now too long.
I'm just making sure I understand everything. I've been doing this the whole time. Give me just a second, I'll look this for Okay. I'm sorry, you continue.
You know the story of the boy who cried wolf? You remember that one?
Nope.
Never heard of that?
Heard of what, sir?
The boy who cried wolf?
I've heard the phrase.
You know what that means? You know what that phrase means?
I don't. Please explain.
So,
You realize you're on the road, right?
Excuse me?
You're on the road.
Why would you remind me of that, sir?
Because I don't think it's reasonable for me to believe that you don't know what the boy who cried wolf means.
Why is that?
because I think it's very common.
Okay, I have to know everything that's common?
You don't have to know everything. But
I don't know how he perceives that phrase, and I don't perceive it any certain way.
If somebody's telling the truth,
Okay,
so
you believe I'm lying?
I don't know.
Okay, very good.
So you don't know that story. The boy,
What, are you talking about something I might have seen in school 47 years ago?
boy who cried wolf,
Okay.
right? Tells all the
What's the
towns.
relevance? Let's move on to that.
Well, I think it's direct analogy to exactly what's happened here.
What's that?
Right? You go around recording.
No, I don't. I have gone around recording.
Okay. Well, that's
You go around wearing suits. You always wear a suit?
You weren't there to record. You were there to do a public records request.
Correct.
Right? It's a quick public records.
Correct. And they turned into this again.
Request. Right, that's what you told Corporal Zalba. Quick. You just wanted to get in and out. 15 minutes, right?
I didn't tell him quick or a certain time. I just said that I was there to make a public records request.
You didn't tell him that you were there for a 15-minute public records request.
If I said 15 minutes, it shouldn't even take that long.
Did you tell him that?
I don't know. I don't recall.
Fair to say it shouldn't even take that long. You wanted to get in and out. Is that fair to say?
I wanted to see if they were going to respect the judge's order.
Okay, so you weren't just there to make a public records request.
Yeah, I made a public records request.
Okay. You know you can do that online, right?
You know you could do it in person under the law, right?
That's 100%.
Well, that's the way I chose
What
to do it that
What I'm
day.
asking you is if you had somewhere to be, which is what you told them, right? That you had somewhere to be.
After they were there for over an hour and they begged me to stay.
And you wanted it to be quick. You know you can do it online.
You keep
right?
saying I wanted to be quick. I never said that.
You didn't tell Corporal Zalba that?
That I wanted it to be quick?
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't think I used that word.
Do you want to see the video
What video of?
of his body cam where you're telling him that you're just there?
Oh, you're talking about that day?
Yeah.
I thought you meant here in court. I might have said it that
There's
day.
nothing quick about this court proceeding.
No. And it never will be. The more you guys bring me in here.
You know you're the one who initiated this proceeding.
I am not. I went to do a public records request and then the people with guns showed up,
You didn't
accosted
file
me
an
with a
appeal?
gun. A
You
guy
didn't
with
file
a...
an appeal that initiated this
I
proceeding?
filed an appeal because I have no other recourse.
So, you know you can do public records requests online.
Relevance.
But you said you needed to be there quick that day. Certainly that would
Well,
be. a
why
lot
wouldn't it be
quicker.
quick? Because I can do it online?
Certainly that would be quicker than driving down there, wouldn't it?
I kind of agree with this.
Objection, no, because I was in the area and I was right there.
Okay. So why didn't you take a
So what,
ticket?
you're saying I should have drove all the way home?
Mr. Felix, if you make an objection, let me roll on.
Go ahead.
I was agreeing with you.
Go
I
ahead.
don't see the relevance.
Yeah, there isn't any.
So why didn't you take a ticket?
I was never asked to take a ticket.
Did you see the?
I would have gladly taken a ticket. Again, that's irrelevant. So what? If they wanted me to take a ticket, I would have took a ticket. They didn't even give me a chance to take a ticket. They didn't give me a chance to make my public records request. They didn't give me a chance to do anything. It was attack, attack, attack.
You don't like their policy, right?
Any American who knows the Bill of Rights would not like their policy.
Because it's your opinion that you have a First Amendment right to recording that building, right?
In public areas, for the most part.
You're a big believer in the First Amendment,
The Constitution, yes.
the whole Constitution.
Yeah, most of it. 16th and 17th can go.
Okay. I mean, it's the whole document our country's founded on, right?
Correct.
Who wouldn't be? So,
That we don't follow anymore.
what about the stuff before the Bill of Rights? Article 1, Article 2, Article 3?
What about it?
It's good stuff, right?
Sure.
You familiar? What's Article 1?
Late taxes. There's different Article 1, different sections. I don't know it verbatim.
Well, generally speaking, what's under Article 1?
I don't know it verbatim.
Okay. What about Article 2?
Don't know.
Article 3?
Relevance.
Okay. So the whole foundation of separation of powers, checks and balances, you're not familiar with those sections of the
I'm
Constitution?
not saying that.
Well, would you agree that Article 1 generally legislative powers?
I'd have to research.
You familiar with the Florida Constitution?
Not verbatim? No.
Are you familiar with the general structure of government, legislative, executive, judicial?
Yes.
Okay, that's a good thing, right?
And when it's properly done, yes. Not the way it is now, no.
You familiar with the power of judicial review?
No.
You don't know what judicial
You talking
review
Marbury versus Madison?
is? I am.
Okay, yeah.
So what's judicial review?
I'd be guessing, but Marbury versus Madison, any law that's unconstitutional should be ignored. And abolished or ignored into non-existence, something of that nature. If I'm guessing right.
It's close, yeah.
Yeah.
It's ultimately,
It's invalid.
judicial review gives the courts the power to declare a legislative or an executive action unconstitutional, right?
Correct.
Such as a policy enacted
But
by
the ultimate power is to the people. That's why we had a revolution.
So-
And I'm trying to avoid actual gunfights and an actual civil war in this country. If we
So
could just
that-
get the government to follow the Constitution.
So that power of judicial review to
Mhm.
declare an executive act unconstitutional,
Hmm.
who holds that power?
The power of judicial review, ultimately the people.
What branch of government has that power to conduct judicial review?
Well, the first is the people. The people are first. The people are first.
So if the people say an act is unconstitutional, it's unconstitutional.
If the people say,
Mhm.
well, it has to be congruent with the writing in the Constitution.
It has to be declared unconstitutional, right?
By who?
By a court, right?
Not necessarily. There was a civil war in this country when the courts failed.
So I mean,
That's how the Constitution was created. Because the king acted like a sovereign, just like our judges and lawyers do now.
and we
And
established,
our police officers do now. They act like the sovereigns and not the servants.
and we established separation of powers through the Constitution.
But there isn't any currently, which can be demonstrated.
Okay. You understand the special magistrate is not a judge, right?
No, I did not know that. I thought a magistrate was a judge. And I'm shocked that you can't hear constitutional arguments in a court.
You understand this is not a court, right?
No,
I mean, you were here at the hearing in August, right?
right?
The first thing he says is, I'm not a judge, I'm an attorney, right?
Aren't all judges attorneys?
Necessarily.
No? You can become a judge without being an attorney first?
Once you're a
Say
judge.
Or you can't be a practicing attorney and be a judge at the same time.
You can.
You cannot. You have
What
to
I'm saying is,
go-
there's no judge that wasn't formerly an attorney first.
That's, yeah, you're right.
Okay, thank you.
Different thing.
Thank you.
But I'm 98% of my time practicing attorney, not a hearing officer.
Okay. Relevance?
Saying it's a
But
question, I guess.
the relevant, what I'm trying to ask you is, you think their policy is unconstitutional. You realize you have to go to court to get a court to say it's unconstitutional.
And you realize that after you're calling 200 lawyers, not one will call you back, right?
Maybe that's because you don't have a good case. I don't know.
Oh,
Maybe it's because they think you would lose.
or because lawyers don't make money on civil rights action. Maybe that's the case. You think of that option?
It's possible.
That's what it is.
It seems to be lost on you that this hearing, it's a very narrow scope. As Mr. Maggard's indicated, it's just to see whether the trespass ordinance 66-159 was followed. He doesn't have the power to determine whether or not their policies constitute.
That's fine. I didn't say he had the power.
You've come into this hearing, and even though you say you're not arguing the constitutionality of their policy, you really are. You have been all day. It violates your free press, that it violates your free speech, right?
It does.
And do you really think that it's consistent with the Constitution that we all respect to have a...
Objection. We don't all respect.
Do you really...
Very few people in
So-
this country.
You respect the Constitution.
Absolutely.
So, this hearing officer, you understand that he is an arm of the legislative body, right? The Board of County Commissioners has appointed him to conduct these limited hearings.
I really don't understand what he does here. It's lost on me. The fact that he can't hear the law quoted directly, case law.
Well, do you understand that he's not a judge?
No, I just answered that already.
Well, I mean, I think that probably goes to the root of the whole problem, of why we're having the
The root of the
misunderstanding
problem is an unconstitutional ordinance, an unconstitutional policy. That's the root of the problem. And a very aggressive gunmen that come up to you and treat you like a school shooter when you're trying to do a public records request.
So what, the Second Amendment, that's not important to you?
Of course it is.
Doesn't he have a right to...
Do I have that right? Is there equal protection under the law?
Not in a government building.
Is there equal protection under the law? Or is he a sovereign citizen?
No, that's not.
Oh, I see. Interesting.
That's a reasonable restriction.
Oh, really? So it's reasonable
So-
for me not to have self-defense, But it's not, it's reasonable for him to have it, but unreasonable for me. Got it.
So you sat through 2 of these hearings now. You're still under the impression that this man is a judge?
Looks like a judge to me. He's the head guy here. He's making the decisions.
Despite, he's told you
What's
so.
the relevance if he's a judge or not? I don't understand.
The relevance is only a judge can declare their policy unconstitutional.
That's fine. And when I call 500 more lawyers, I'll try to get that going.
No further.
Are you willing to take this case?
I can't.
That's what I thought.
No further questions.
We good? I'm hungry. And I'm diabetic. So we got to take a lunch break if we're going to keep going.
You have nothing else?
I have argument.
How long do you need for that?
5 to 10 minutes.
You need to take a break, Mr. Felix?
Let me get another drink of water and do your thing.
Because if you need to take a break,
I just water enough. I can last 5-10 minutes. Just let me get some water.
Can I ask a question though?
Sure.
Megan? Now, the signs on the doors that say no food or drink, that's just for the citizens or is that for the county workers also? That doesn't apply to you?
Sure.
Okay.
Probably for the county commission meetings.
Okay.
What happened? My back's hurting too, so if you don't mind if I stand.
I don't want.
That was another thing at that day, is that he kept telling me to sit down when my back was hurting. And claiming it was the law that I couldn't stand
I
it.
don't think you ever, oh, that day you mean?
Yeah.
But you meant our last hearing.
No, that day, the
I was
second.
gonna say, I don't think I ever would have made you sit if you told me your parents.
No, I know.
If I could just make some closing argument. So, we were here back in August in a very similar case. Mr. Felix, he says he's not challenging the constitutionality of their policy, but it is one of the main cruxes of his argument is that their policy is an infringement on his right to free press and his right to free speech. When we were here, and I believe it was in August, before you made any rulings, you made some findings. You don't have the ability to determine the constitutionality of their policy. The purpose of the appeal is to determine if the trespass was properly issued pursuant to the county code, and those are the only issues at hand, and any challenge to the policy needs to be done through the court system. So he's been told this, but I would ask that you make those same findings, and because of that.
Objection. I wasn't violating a policy.
Right. So,
Because I know from the last hearing that I wasn't allowed to record inside the lobby, so I didn't record.
But he's saying that he's wanting me to find that I still have the limited authority to decide whether you did or didn't violate the policy, not the constitutionality of the policy.
Right. You have the authority to
That's all-
rule
that's
on
what
whether I
he's
violated their policy of recording in the lobby.
That's what he's asking, is that I find that that is where my.
Oh, okay, where your
authority
jurisdiction is?
stops
Okay.
For purposes of this.
Okay.
So we're here under 66-159, appeals are governed under sub 6. Sub 6, sub K states, the government bears the burden of proof by a preponderance of the evidence that the trespass warning was properly issued pursuant to the criteria of this section. So it is a relatively low burden. It's not the criminal standard of beyond a reasonable doubt. Frankly, if the standard was beyond a reasonable doubt, I don't know that we'd be here. But it's preponderance of the evidence. It simply means more likely than not. It's the 51% rule. And a copy of the trespass warning was introduced into evidence through Corporal Zalva. The trespass warning itself shows that it meets the requirements for issuance. Only authorized personnel may make an initial determination to issue a trespass warning. That's the first requirement. The ordinance defines authorized personnel as an employee with management or oversight responsibility and as security personnel. So in this instance, there was testimony that Ms. Amy Polk, the office manager, who has that management or oversight responsibility, as well as Jeff Gentry, who is security personnel, they both authorize the trespass. Section 2A states that they may authorize the trespass if they determine that the person has acted in any manner which violates any rule, policy, or directive on any sign at the public property. If they determine. So it's not Corporal Zalva's job, it's not the Sheriff's Office's job to make the determination. If If they determine their policy is violated, they can initiate the trespass. So in this instance, authorized personnel determined that he violated their video recording policy. We know the policy is posted at the property. There's photos and evidence of that. It's posted on the front door when you come in, as well as on the wall right when you come in. So the ultimate issue really is, have we proven by a preponderance of the evidence that he violated that posted policy? And there's been a lot of argument in reference to the supplemental order of the special magistrate from the last hearing. I would submit that it's almost entirely irrelevant. You know, first of all, you don't need a special order to go do a public records request, you know, whether you've been trespassed from another location or not. That order was in response to a request to re-enter the Land O'Lakes location. That request was denied, and in the order, I would almost argue it's dicta that one of the reasons it's denied is because there's 4 other locations you can go to if you have legitimate business, but it certainly doesn't need that order to go to the other locations. And what that order certainly is not blanket authority to then go violate their posted policy.
Objection. I never violated the
He's
policy.
just making an argument.
Okay.
To the extent
I will
that,
say that I wrote the order, and part of the reason is that I didn't want him to not be able to go back and exercise his other First Amendment rights, such as protests on the sidewalk or
Take notes inside the building.
right. Well, that particular location you were trespassed from, but you could go stand on the sidewalk outside of it with a sign.
But the Wesley Chapel location, I can go in there with a clipboard and write down what's going on as a journalist.
I don't think anybody's arguing that. They're arguing whether or not you reported or not.
And they flip-flopped over and over again.
I mean, he's made argument that the order authorizes him to exercise his First Amendment, i.e. record at the other policies. So to the extent he's arguing that today,
Is that your argument?
No.
Because I think you're taking a little bit of a lead there.
Yeah.
I
I knew that I wasn't allowed to record. You told me through paperwork, that court order, that I'm not allowed to record and I can't violate their policy. So I made sure I wasn't violating the policy. And they still came after me, attacked me, and forced me out under threatened arrest. Huh? Yeah, immediately. I couldn't even get a chance to have a de-escalated conversation with a professional. I had that hothead. That guy doesn't belong in there.
sorry, go ahead, Council. So just, I'm looking at what evidence we do have. We do know that this is a man who, to some extent, kind of has a reputation for recording.
Objection. All journalists have, that's what all journalists do. That's irrelevant.
Record.
Journalists record. They take records, either through video, audio, written records, and they create a journal and they publish it. How is that relevant? Whether they have a reputation. If CNN walked in there, they wouldn't act that way. I guarantee Jeff wouldn't go up and accost them and tell them to leave and threaten them with arrest over and over again. They would get special treatment because they're mainstream media. They just don't like independent journalists. And as you saw the employees say, it's okay to record inside.
Yeah, I heard that, but I'll do it what way I think.
The point I'm making is, it's a guy who has a history of recording in their other offices, shows up.
Objection. I recorded in one office.
Okay, but I think
He just made it plural like that. I'm going to all the offices. I've only been in 2.
So a guy who's known to have recorded in one of their offices walks into this office wearing a body camera. It's not unreasonable for them to initiate an investigation as to whether he's recording. Then they go up and they see a flashing red light, which is very consistent with recording.
Objection.
why? What is your?
There's 8 million models of camera. Oh, that's what I forgot to ask Zelda. Their cameras don't blink when they record either. So
Right.
that argument is null and void and invalid.
How is that null and void and valid?
Because the Pasco County Sheriff's body cams do not blink when they're recording. There's no way for you to know.
That's a negative, like, you're using the opposite thing that happened to make an argument.
What I'm saying is a blinking light.
You testified to, you don't know if it will record without a blinking.
Correct. I would have to research the whole thing,
Right.
and there's no way anybody else could know unless they know the model specifically, have personal first-hand knowledge. And the body cameras the police use do not blink, and they still record.
Right, but yours was blinking, and you testified that you never recorded where it didn't, where it blinked without it recording.
I said, I don't know if I said I don't recall if I have. It doesn't matter, you can set it up any way you want. The fact that the light's blinking is invalid, it means nothing.
Okay, well, I think that's just where he was getting at with
It's an invalid point.
I mean,
okay.
if he's gonna object every other sentence, I don't really care.
Just false statements, that's it.
Care to continue. He obviously has a right to respond to the rebuttal argument after.
Yeah.
We'll be here forever.
I tend to agree. Let him make his argument.
Well, if he's making false statements.
Then you can tell me.
Okay, I'll take notes when he makes false statements.
That'd be great.
All right.
So him out.
You know, part of his case today was that he was there to do a public records request, but then we have indication through the testimony that he didn't even check in when he got there. He didn't get a ticket. He just sat there wearing the body camera. So even though he argues that he wasn't recording, the evidence, especially in light of a preponderance of the evidence standard, tends to suggest that he was. Going back to the blinking red light that we were talking about, you know, he's indicated that it doesn't mean anything. It's a setting that can be turned off. But we have to exercise our common sense too. I mean, from our experience with cameras, with everyone's life experience and common sense, generally speaking, a blinking red light does mean recording. Both Mr. Gentry testified to that, and that from his experience is what it means. Ms. Moore testified that she's been testing a very similar model, and that when it's recording, it blinks reds. So, you know, he said you can change it, but what we haven't seen today, what we haven't heard any testimony about, what we haven't seen one example of, is where the body camera is not recording, but it's not recording, but the light is blinking red.
And
So, you know, Ms. Moore testified that she's been testing these body cameras, and she's compared it to the one, and she's not able to replicate that. From her experience, blinking red light means recording. So, it's my contention that Pasco County has proven by preponderance of the evidence that he did violate that video recording policy. And, you know, there's been argument about, well, the employees are recording, or the sheriffs are recording, some reference to 10 other people recording that day. You know, they're, as we talked about at the time, they're acting within the scope of their employment. There's no risk of exposing
So am I.
information. So looking back to the ordinance, some of the factors that they can consider when making the decision to request a trespass warning. Did the person refuse to conform to any verbal request or warnings to desist or cease the violation? So Mr. Gentry testified that that happened in this case. Previous violations they can consider. We know there's the prior Land O'Lakes case. And the harm or potential harm. It doesn't have to be actual harm to the public, but potential harm to the public. So there was a lot of testimony about that as well. And that's what this whole policy is about, is that video recording in their office constitutes a harm to the public. Ms. Moore testified that they're dealing with sensitive information, driver's license, social security, and they have an affirmative duty under the law to protect that information. So he argues that that doesn't apply to him, that regulation, and it doesn't. It applies to them. It is on them. So they have to take proactive steps to ensure that the law is complied with and the public's not harmed. And that's what they've done through a no video recording policy. That's why they require customers to sit down until they're called. It's why the driver's test log that was admitted into evidence has been redacted, because they have to protect that information. They have to take affirmative steps, and they've done exactly that. So if someone comes in and looks like they're video recording, that constitutes potential harm to the public. Mr. Zamora testified how they had to shut down operations that day for an hour. Going to the content of the trespass warning itself that Corporal Zalva issued, It has to state the facts and circumstances justifying the trespass. This one that's in evidence does. It has to specify which policy has been violated. This one that's in evidence does. It must identify the scope of its prohibition by address. It says on there the address of Wesley Chapel tax collector. And it can only be issued by law enforcement after receiving a written statement containing the basis for the trespass. So again, Corporal Zalva testified to collecting those written statements on February 8th. Specifically, the written statement of Jeffrey Gentry has been introduced into evidence. And Corporal Zalva also on cross-examination testified that he forwarded a copy to the county attorney on the day of. So we've proven that the trespass was properly issued pursuant to 66-159. I don't want to get too much into the constitutionality argument. It kind of came out on his cross-examination. This is a quasi-judicial body. It's not a judicial body. There's limited authority to determine if the trespass was properly issued. The judicial function, that's power of the courts. There's plenty of case law on that. Just real briefly, Canyon v. Board of Public Instruction of Alachua County. The site's 278 Southern 2nd, 260. It's the Florida Supreme Court Act 1973. They said, as a general rule, administrative agencies have no general judicial powers, notwithstanding they may perform some quasi-judicial duties, and the legislature may not authorize officers or bodies to exercise powers which are judicial in their nature. But there's no universe in which you, the hearing officer, could say, well, their policy's unconstitutional, so, therefore, the whole thing's quashed. He's got to take it to the courts. He's been told that. We talked about last time the Sheets versus Punta Gorda. I don't want to waste a lot of time on that because I don't think it's pertinent to this tribunal. But the argument, it was a video recording City Hall ordinance. The argument is that it's a reasonable time, place, and manner restriction on a limited public forum. The test that was established in that case is reasonable and viewpoint neutral, which I think if they were sued, they would pass that test. Unlike a policy like no black people, which, not even really a restriction on speech, it would really be an equal protection, civil rights violation. But, if a policy like that were enacted, I would sure hope that somebody would challenge them and bring them to court before there was any enforcement of it, and not try to argue it in a quasi-judicial administrative hearing. The issue here is not the legal merits of their policy. It's did we prove by preponderance of the evidence that he violated their policy and that the trespass warning was issued according to 66-159. I would submit that it was. That's all I got.
So,
Still the camera.
yeah,
You want to see it again?
sure. Can I tell you now, or?
Yeah, go ahead.
He's saying that I was told to cease and desist with a violation. How can I cease and desist something I wasn't doing? Okay? I had your court order with me. I was in there for legitimate business. I was peaceful, I was quiet. I got accosted by a guy wearing a gun. He started barking at me. Let me get a word in. I know I wasn't allowed to record inside the lobby, and that's why I didn't record inside the lobby. What else did he say? As far as needing, I didn't need a ticket when I first went in there. I first went in there to sit down and take some notes on my clipboard, as this lady testified. And then, when I went up to the gatekeeper to make my public records request, if they wanted me to take a ticket, I would have gladly taken a ticket. Instead, she went back and Mr. Gentry came out, accosted me, and wouldn't let me get a word in edgewise and kept threatening me over and over and over. Claiming he gave me trespass paperwork, which he never handed me. And then the other gentleman and claimed that I never left the property, and then he contradicted himself over and over and over again. So I was trespassed for not recording. It's as simple as that. I literally went in there for a quick transaction. I showed them your thing. I wasn't violating their policy. They had no reason to trespass me. They just are targeting me because they don't like independent journalists. That's it. It's as plain as day.
So, was the flashing when you were in there?
I'm not sure. That's what they're claiming.
You don't know?
I was not recording in there. Regardless of what lights were flashing, I made sure I didn't record in there because I know I'm not allowed to record in there.
Daryl, what I'm asking is, do you know?
I don't.
The light was flashing?
I don't.
Did you do anything to manipulate it since then to make it not flash?
No.
You said you had to look into the computer or something? You didn't do that?
If you wanted to change the settings,
Right.
I don't know if you have to do it by the computer, but it comes with a little cable you plug into your computer, and you have a big screen to look at, and you could change the settings.
Since that date?
No.
To change the settings of the flash?
No, sir.
Okay. Do you have any questions based on my questions? No. All right, I'm gonna take your statement and all the other evidence that was administered and review it. And
Okay.
at least provide a written order, hopefully by the end of this week.
Okay.
All right.
Done?
Yep,
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
thanks.
Alrighty, so there you go. There's the end of the hearing. 6 hours long. I made them earn their money in that hearing. I believe the judge magistrate made $1,800 to sit through all that. Good for him. Anyway, what do you think the verdict's going to be? Is he going to rule against me again? Same judge who said I threatened him? Or will he rule in my favor? Stand by for the verdict, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this series of videos. Thanks for watching.
Are you some sort of sovereign citizen or something?
No, sir, I do not work for the police.